Hello ladies, I am going to teach you how to make this wonderful calendar box for your cards. It's you put the birthdays down and in each place you tuck in little cards to um, so you can have them all ready for birthdays. So this would make a great Christmas gift, birthday gift, or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is we are going to work through this step by step. Okay, so I just wanted to show you what it's going to look like. And there's the front, there's the back. Okay, what you're going to need in your package, you should have a package of DSP to choose from. What I'd like you to do is choose two of the main pattern that you would like to have for the outside. So it's for the outside here, the front, the sides, the back, and the other side. And on the inside, we will have it on the front. And so the DSP, so you're going to choose two pieces of that. Now, I have an alternate. So what we're going to do with that is that will be on the back side of the divider card. So you're going to find two pieces of 12 by 12 for the outsides and one for the back on the inside. So I'd like you to choose that if you don't mind. And also in your pack, what you have is a full pack of Pear Pizzazz cardstock. We are going to be using that for the outside, the box base, and for the dividers inside. Inside, you should have also little punched out tabs in the same color as Pear Pizzazz. You should have about 13. I think I gave one just in case one became a boo-boo. So there's that Pear Pizzazz cardstock. You should also have two darker green papers. And what that's going to be is that will be the mat around the outside of the box for the DSP. So that's two colors, and this color is garden green. If you want, you'll notice that my dividers are the darker color. It's just because when I was creating this, that's what I had on hand. For this project, and I'm going to be using Pear Pizzazz as if it was just you. If you'd like to order more, this is garden green, and it's with Pear Pizzazz, and I just chose these colors because that's what matches the DSP. Now, I'm going to be going through this with you step by step. You will need your trimmer, you will need your adhesive, and you will need your snips. So let's start off. We are going to cut some of the outside pieces. We are going to start with the front part here. So we're going to start with the cutting of the cardstock of these pieces for the outside. Now you have to be aware these measurements need to be precise, so I'm going to go through it very carefully with you. We are going to start with the darker garden green cardstock, and we are going to cut two of the mats. So we're going to be cutting two of the front. I'm referring to this to the front and the back. So 1 and 2. So we need two of these, and they need to be cut at 4.5 by 3 3/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to cut at 4.5. So there's the 4, there's the 4 1/4, and a 4.5. So we need to cut 4.5 by 3 3/4. So I got that piece. I'm going to put this off to the side, turn it 90 degrees, 3 3/4. So there's 3 inches. 1, 2, 3 3/4. Cut that. I'm going to do that again. There's the 3 inches. 1, 2, 3. So now I have two of the mats, one for the front, one for the back. I'm going to put that aside. And now we're going to cut the cardstock for the sides. So we need to cut the sides on each one. So we are going to cut that. They are going to be actually square. So let's cut those at 3.5. So 3 and 1 and a half. So 3.5. Going to turn that 90 degrees, 3 inches, 1, 2, 3.5. And that extra piece is too short, so put that aside. And I need another one. So 3.5. So 3.5. Turn it 90 degrees and 3.5. So what happens now? So I have the two sides. I have the front and the back. And what we are, since we are working with the cardstock, let's continue and let's cut the dividers that we need. Now, these are the dividers where the little tabs will be going on. This goes inside the box. So let's get our couple of pieces of Pear Pizzazz. We need at least 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 6 pieces of this because there are 12 months. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 2 sheets at once. You don't have to do this. I just find out just much easier. It goes much quicker. What I'm going to do is I want this sheet portrait. So I want it long ways up and down. So portrait up and down. And what I'm going to do, got to make sure that you can see the measurements. I'm going to cut at 6 inches. So long ways. I have it portrait. I'm going to have it at 6 inches. Okay, I have this strip left over. I don't need it. Get it out of the way. I take it, I turn 90 degrees, and I'm going to cut at 4.5. So this piece of paper, this cardstock will end up to be 4.5 by 6. So there's the 4, 1, and there's the half. And slide it over, 4.5 again. Now, I need to do that for all the pieces. So right now I have 4. I'm going to do that again, cutting at 2 pieces at a time. Make sure they don't move. I'm going to slip it in at 6 inches. Slide, piece left over. Turn at 90 degrees, 4.5. Don't make a mistake. These dimensions need to be precise. So 4.5. And 4.5, and I'm going to put the pieces to the side. So now I have 8 and 1 more. That's one thing I like about the Stampin' Up! Trimmer is I can cut multiple pieces at once. I can cut 2 pieces of cardstock at once, and it goes much, much quicker. And so 4, turned at 9 degrees, 4.5, 4.5. Okay. So now I should have 12 of these sheets. I got 12 of them, and I'm going to put them off to the side. Okay, so I got 12 of those, and I get rid of the excess pieces. Now what I'm going to do next is I am going to work on cutting the DSP. So we are going to cut right now the front and the back of the DSP. So the front, the back, the front, and the back. So we're going to cut the DSP for this and this. Now be careful with the measurements. And you notice when on here, the leaves, you have to be aware on which way the leaves are going. So you have to be aware of how you are going to cut. So I got 1 piece of the DSP, and I'm going to, so the leaves, I'm going to say they are pointing up. So when you look at the DSP, it is pointing up. So I'm going to refer to it either up or pointing to the left. So to cut for the DSP for the front and the back, we are going to cut at 4.5. So I want my leaves pointing up. I'm going to cut, oh, not 4.5. It is 4 1/4. So there's the 4 1/4. I'm going to be cutting that, leaves up. Got the piece aside. I'm going to be turning this 90 degrees so my leaves are turning and facing the left. So I cut at 4 1/4, and now I'm going to cut at 3 1/2. So there's 3 1/2. Now I need to make 2 of these. 3.5. I'm just going to slide that down, 3.5. And I realized I just made a mistake, so that one was too tiny. I'm going to keep this because I still need it. So 3.5. The first one I cut at a wrong dimension. So 3, 1.5. So you need 2 of these, just to let you know. So that is now 4.25 by 3.5. So 4.25 this way and 3.5 going up and down. So I got 2 of these. And when I look at my cardstock, they will match perfectly. So I'm going to put one on, just so I don't get mixed up. And I'm going to put the next one on. So, and I'm going to put these aside. Okay. Now we need to cut the sides on each one. So we need to cut 2. Watch which way the leaves go. And we are going to be cutting this DSP at 3.25. So there's 3. So 3.25. So I would cut there. This one I had made a mistake, so this fits perfect. I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, 3.25. Because it's a straight square, it doesn't matter. So there's one. I'm going to cut another piece, 3.25. So there's the 3 mark, 1/4. Put that aside. And I turn it 90 degrees. There's the 3 mark and 1/4. Same like the front and back. I'm going to look, make sure it fits. I'm going to put one down. And I'm going to put the other one down. They both fit. And I'm going to put them with the other one. So when I'm ready for assembly, I will put them all together. So now what we've done is we have cut the front DSP and the cardstock, the back DSP and the cardstock, and the 2 sides. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cut the DSP for the inside, which goes on the dividers. Now, I asked you to choose an extra divider card, an extra DSP. So I have one on the front. So this is going to be my main piece. And on the back, I've chosen just a coordinating pattern for the back. Okay, so you are going to cut these. Now you're going to have one strip left over. You need another piece. That's why you have the second piece of DSP. Just like before, I'm going to cut them both at the same time because they need to be the exact same measurement. So I'm going to put them together. I'm going to have the leaves facing left. So I'm going to turn it. So the leaves are now facing left. I'm going to slip it into the cutter. And I'm going to cut it at 2 inches. So I got 2 inches. And I'm going to continue that for the whole sheet. Cut. Put it aside. Slide it over to 2 inches. Cut. Take this piece. Put it aside. And I'm going to just keep doing that for the whole sheet. Because these end up to be the little pieces of paper on the dividers that hold the date calendar together. And I need 12 of each. So 12 of the pattern for the back and 12 for the front. Now I should have them all the same size. So the strips are all the same size. Okay. So that was 2 inches. Now I'm going to take some. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go faster and just cut 2 at a time. So I'm going to take them. Leaves are now facing up. I'm going to slip it in. I'm going to cut at 4.5. Let me just double check. I want to make sure. 4.5. So there's 4. Okay, there's 4. 1/4. 1/2. So I want 4.5. Cut and slide it down. 4.5. I'm going to have a little piece left over, which I can use on cards that I'm going to show you later. I'm going to put that aside. And I'm going to continue that with all the strips. So I'm going to put it in. 4.5. Make sure it's at 4 1/2. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. 4 1/2. Slide it down. The great thing about the trimmer, with the DSP, you can cut up to 6 sheets at one time, so I can go much faster. So there's the 4, and make sure you go to 4 1/2. Okay. I know I keep repeating the numbers, but I don't want you to get mixed up. So now we should have 24 of these pieces. 12 for the front and 12 for the back. So that ends up with 24 pieces. These extras I'm going to put aside. I'm just going to get them out of the way. Clean up my space here. Just put them off to the side. I have now 24 of these sheets, little tabs, and that will be, as I mentioned, the front and the back. Okay, I'm going to put those aside now. And we are going, that is for the cutting of the DSP, the front, the back, the sides, and the insert. We've also cut our dividers. Okay. Now we're going to start on making the box itself. So there is only one final cut on this that we're going to be doing. So I want you to get a piece of Pear Pizzazz cardstock. Actually get 2, because what you're going to do to one, you're going to do to the exact same to the other one. Now, so we got 2 pieces of Pear Pizzazz cardstock. As I mentioned, the trimmer, I can cut 2 pieces of cardstock at the same time. You are going to be doing the exact same thing to both pieces. I'm going to be extending the arm of my trimmer. Now the sheet is already 11 inches long. I want it to stay at 11 inches long. I am holding the sheet portrait, and I need to cut at 8 1/4. So there is the 8 mark and 1/4. So the little mark between the 8 1/2. And then I'm going to be cutting that piece out. Like I said, I'm cutting 2 sheets at once. I'm holding them tight. I'm going to have this tiny little piece that is left over. I don't need those. Off they go to the scrap pile. I now have 2 sheets, 11 by 8 1/4. And now we are going to start scoring. So what you're going to do, make sure that your cutting blade is out of the way. We don't want you to cut the paper where we need to score. You have to score 1 sheet at a time. So let's work with 1. We are now going to hold that paper landscape, so the long way this way. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to slip it in. At landscape, we want to go to 5 1/4. So there's the 5 1/4. So that's where I don't want 5 1/2. I want 5 1/4. So 5 1/4. Close it. I'm going to score. Okay, make sure you're using your score blade, not to cut it. Now that I have that one line here, I'm going to move it down to 7 inches, and I'm going to score again. Okay, and what I want you to do, you should have 2 lines, and I want you to do that for the other sheet also. We're going to do the same sheets step by step. I have it landscape. I'm going to put it in, go to 5 1/4. Score, slide it down to 7, score. Okay, and now that I have the 2 sheets down, I'm going to take the one that I'm working on, and I'm going to turn it portrait up and down. So now you have the 2 sheets going 2 score lines going this way. I turned it, and I want you to score at 1 3/4. So there's 1, 1, 2, 3, 1 3/4. Slide that in. I'm going to slide it all the way down to 6. Now it's on the arm, so there's 6 1/2. So I want to go to 6 1/2, and I'm going to score. So now it looks like I've got the 4 lines. Now I'm going to do that with the other one. So I want to change it to portrait, up and down. I'm going to go to 1 3/4. So 1 inch, 1, 2, 3, and score. take it down to 6.5, and I'm going to score again. So both sheets are the same. So I got the score lines here. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to do some cutting. So I need to put my trimmer away, and I need my snips. So let's get our snips out. Now when you look at the sheets, when you put them down, you'll notice that one portion of it is larger than the other. Okay, so I've got them. I just want you to know that. In the middle here, where the lines intersect, right here, we are going to do this cutting to make this little flap. So what I'm going to show you is how to cut this. And we're going to make this flap. We need to do it on both sides, on both cardstock. So we're going to make this flap. There are the lines here. They look like a little box and just score lines. So this is the intersection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to cut on that line right up to the intersection. Okay, and I'm going to do that on both lines so I can make the flap. Now, when I fold this over, it won't fit neatly as a box. So what we're going to do is we are going to make little indents, but we're going to do that later. So I need to do that for this side. I'm turning it, and I'm going to cut up into the intersection on the line. I'm cutting on the line into the intersection. I'm going to do that for both sides. Okay, and now I'm going to do that for the other sheet. Remember, what I do to one sheet, I have to do to the other. I'm on the line, cutting up to the intersection. Okay, going to turn it and cut up to the intersection. Now what I'm going to show you is the little V shape. We need to cut this notch out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the idea is it's enough cut on an angle that it will flap the fold up. So I'm going to go a little bit in, and I'm going to cut up into the intersection on an angle because I need to meet at that intersection, and I just cut out the little triangle. So when you fold all together, it will have a little bit left over. So I need to do that to all the sides. Now make sure you're cutting from the inside flap, not the outside. Okay, that will make a difference. Cut up to the intersection. So now I got them both done. So there's a little V. What I do to one, I have to do to the other. Okay. And I turn it around, make the little V, and make a little V. Okay, so now I have them all with the little V. So when I fold it up, and I fold the box together, it will all fit nicely. What I'd like you to do now is burnish the lines. So it's basically just folding all of the cardstock to break the fibers wherever you have a line. So when you're done, it is going to sit, it's going to like sit up a little bit, like the pieces. Okay, so I want you to do that. See how now they're kind of all, the fibers are now broken on the folding lines. I need you to do that for all of them. It just makes putting it together that much easier. Okay, just do that. Okay. Now, what I want you to do, we are going to be cutting an angle, and that is going to end up to be this angle here on the box. So you need to get a pencil. Okay, so I'm going to pretend that I'm putting the box together. So I'm putting the tiny little flaps in, folding the little flaps from the bottom, bringing it up, and marking it. Now just be aware that it's flush. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little mark. I just need to make a mark so I know where I'm cutting. See, there's the little mark. And you're going to do that for all the sides. Make sure that it's flush on the bottom. Okay, there we go. So I got a mark on each side. Remember, what I do to one, I have to do to the other. Fold in the little flaps, the short side. So we've got one short side and one long side. So on the inside, I'm just going to make a little mark. Turn it over. Make a little mark. So I now have... Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to make the marks. So there are the marks on each side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to cut from that mark up to the fold line. So I'm going to do that for each side. So I'm going to cut from that mark up to the fold line. I'm going to cut from the mark up to that fold line. So now I have angles on each side. Okay, going to do that for both cardstocks. Okay, cut up to the fold line. That's why I tell you to use pencil. I used my pen, so I can't erase that. So what's going to happen now? I have now my sheets, and they are about ready to be glued. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer to these as the little flaps. So I'm going to put the little flaps on the inside, and because I've cut them in, they will tuck in nicely. And I put it together. Now I want you to be aware that when you have this put together, you want the long side, the long portion, to be on the outside. Because if you didn't, you would see when you glue it together, you would see the line. And you don't want to see that line. You want that tucked in. So I'm going to have that. I'm just going to double check. Now I'm going to need to have them. So I'm going to lay the paper out. I want the little angle parts down by me. So I'm going to put that there. That's the short part. I'm going to be gluing here. So I'm going to take my adhesive and I'm going to glue on that. Because what's going to happen is when I fold it together, will make a mark. Now you're going to do that for the other card. So I've got the little cut marks here on each side. And what I'm going to do is take my snips and go from that mark up to the seam. So I'm just going to be cutting that away. So you want little triangles. So this is why I tell you to use pencils so that you can erase those little marks. So you're going to take the little triangles and off they go. So when you are assembling, you now have two pieces of cards that look like this with the angles cut away. Now what I said, you're going to do this for the exact same for each paper. I'm going to turn this. I want these pieces towards me. So I got the little angles that I've cut away towards me. And I know that as I put it together, I want the glue up here. Because when I put it together, I put the flaps together, and that'll be on the inside. So I want the glue on these little flaps here. So you're going to add the glue to these flaps. Make sure that the angle cuts are towards you. And I'm going to flip, and I'm going to tuck in those little tabs, bring up the short side, and as I put together, I want to make sure it is flush on the bottom as I close it up. Okay, so I want it flush on the bottom. And that's how it's nicely tucked in. Little flap on the inside, closed up, nice and flush, and carefully put together. Okay, now on the inside, you will notice the little flaps are kind of flapping around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some little dots to keep them down. So like I said, what you're doing to one cardstock, you're going to do to both. So I've now put a little glue dot in there to hold it up. And it's adhered to the other part. So when I put the insides, the dividers in, it won't catch on that. Whoops. So not when I push down a little bit too much. So just a little glue dot to hold it up. I'm going to put another little one just to make sure. Get under that flap, put the glue dot in. Okay. So you're going to do this for both parts, the exact same step. And what you're going to do is when you are done, you're going to have two pieces that look like this. So now you have two pieces that look like this. And what you're going to do is you are going to add adhesive to both of the backs. So there's the angle, there's the short side. We don't want it on that. You want it on the larger side. You're going to add adhesive to one, and you're going to add adhesive to the second one, and you're going to place them together. When you place them together, you want them to be flush. So when they sit, one won't be higher than the other. So you're going to put them together like this. And if there's a little bit in between, just add some glue dots to reinforce it sticking together. So when you're done, the box will look like this. The tall part in the middle, the angles, and the front and the back. Now remember I told you no little seams on the sides, okay? And what we're going to work on now is we're going to put those, the DSP that we had originally cut goes on the front and the back and the side. So let's work with that. So I'm going to put that box to the side. I'm going to pull back my DSPs and I'm going to glue them onto the papers. Now I had you assemble them kind of just as you put them aside. So this will be nice and quick. Each one, I adhere the back and I put it onto the mat that it matches. And this goes much quicker because I've already pre-done it. Okay, so now I'm going to be gluing them all onto the mat that I have. Watch which way it goes. Don't put it sideways, so just be careful. It fits. It should have a nice mat all the way around. And I'm going to do that for all the four pieces. Okay. So there are two, a front and a back. And there are two which are side and side. Okay. So now that I have that, I'm going to glue them on. So I'm going to add the adhesive to one. Let's call this the front. Okay. So I'm going to put one on. I'm holding the box with my hand to give it stability. And I'm just putting it together there. I'm going to flip it over. Do it for the front. Same thing. Put my hand in the box for stability. Okay. And I'm going to mat it onto. Okay. So now I put my hand in there and I'm going to adhere it. So I'm still a little unhappy with this corner. I want to make sure that that stays together. I don't want these little corners and stuff to come apart. So I'm just going to add a little glue dot. So the front is now done and the back. Now I'm going to put them on the sides. Same thing. I'm going to glue it down. Make sure there's enough glue everywhere, especially in the corners. I'm going to hold on the inside. Watch which way that the paper goes and glue it down. I have a little space on the bottom, space on the top. Turn it over, same thing. Going to be doing that again. Make sure I get into the little corners. Add enough glue. Don't want it to come apart. Hold it together and I'm going to lay it in there. And I'm going to double check the corners. So if I was a little unhappy, I'd add a little glue dot to each of those little parts that I feel are popping up. So I'm just going to do that. Go through, just double check. I just don't want those coming apart. So just tuck in a little glue dot that holds it in. Okay. There. So now I have them on the front and the back, all the way around. Okay. And I can now add my ribbon. There should be some ribbon that was in with your papers. And what's going to happen is I'm going to have it go all the way around. You could make a bow if you like. I am not the greatest bow maker, so I'm just going to do the easiest kind that I can. Now make sure that the ribbon is flush all the way around. Okay, you don't want it twisted at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a double knot because I want it to stay there. Just make a little double knot. Make it as tight as I can. Now, it's a little long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off a little piece. I'm going to slip it back under again. And I'm going to knot it up just to kind of hide that. Make a little nicer. There we go. And what happens is now I have the ribbon all the way around. Okay, and I don't want that ribbon to move. Back again with my handy dandy adhesive dots. And I'm going to slip it in under the ribbon all the way around. You don't need a whole bunch, just enough so it doesn't slip around. Just going to tuck it underneath. Just keep going around. Okay. Oh, that one's a little, come on, hide. You want to hide all your mechanics. I'm going to put another one under that dot because I want that to stay. Now I'm going to trim the ends of my tails. Okay. Trim it up, make it look pretty. Oh dear. Looks like I need to sharpen my scissors. So that's easy enough to do. I should show you that on that trick too. Okay. Now I don't want these sticking up, so I'm just going to convince them to lay down with another glue dot. So I'm going to put the glue dot there. And I'm going to convince it that it wants to stay right there. And I'm going to do that with the other one. And if I want it to flap up a little with some, there. So now I have the little bow there. Now if I wanted, I could add a little sentiment tag tucked underneath. So that is basically the box portion is now completed. Now we're going to, oh, that looks so great. We are going to work on the inside. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So now we're going to work on the dividers. What I want to do is I have my strips. I'm going to put them together. Because remember, I cut them all at the same time. The ones with the dots are going to be my back. The ones with the pattern DSP will be the front. I should have 12 of each. Just double check. I have 10 of this, so it looks like I need to cut just 2 more. So that's why you always double check. Maybe it's hidden in here somewhere. Always double check before you start. Oh, 10, 11. Okay. And I'm just going to quickly cut one more. I want to have 12. You make sure that you have 12 of each. So just bear with me. Just need one more. Okay. So 12. So I have 12 of these. And I have 12 of these. And I have 12 of the pattern. When I put this on here, I'm only going to do 3 sides. 1, 2, 3. That's the 2 sides and the bottom. Because I want the paper to slip inside. When you are gluing, try and stay as close to the edge as you can. This works really well if you have tear and tape. So I'll show you one with just the regular adhesive. So I have it on the 3 sides. I'm going to put the one with the adhesive on the bottom, and it just fits on there like that. Okay? If you are using the tear and tape, what you're going to do, put that aside, to make sure you watch which way the pattern goes. Take a piece of tear and tape. This is stronger than the snail or that you would use. You would just put it on the edge. Okay. Put a little bit down here. So that's going to hold the bottom. And that's going to hold the side. So you have it on the 3 sides. So you want to make sure then that you're just going to peel it off. Okay. Peel off the backing. This will definitely hold. This is a good adhesive when you do these projects, and you're going to put it on the bottom. So you're going to do this for all 12. You're going to put them on the front. So I'm not going to do all 12, but I want to show you. I'm going to do just one more for you. I'm going to use a tear and tape adhesive on the sides, on 3 sides. Line it as close to the edge as I can. I don't want it inside because that is where you are going to have your papers. Now you're going to do that for this pattern paper on the front. You're going to do that for 12, and you're going to do that for the backing one too. So 12 of the one design on the front and 12 on the back. You're just going to flip it over, make sure it goes on the same side, like the same area. Okay? Just be aware of where you're placing it. So I'm just going to get this one up and put it on the bottom. Now you're going to do that for all of those, okay? Now that we have finished placing all of the front and the back on the little dividers, you should have received in your package a little folded package of these little punch tabs. If you can get your hands on this type of punch, it is really good to make little dividers if you can. I don't know if it's still available. I have a feeling it's going away. So what we're going to do is we are going to line them up. Now we found out that what happens is you're going to have 6 in a row. So you're going to have like January, February, March, April, May, June. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're going to repeat it again. Oh, look, January, December's in the wrong spot. And you're going to repeat it. I think January decided to take a little trip. There we go. So we are going to space them out. So 1 to 6 and then 1 to 6. And all you're going to do is add the adhesive to both sides. Okay, and then you're just going to line it up and fold it over. So you're going to do that for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I like to have them all as even as I can, I'm going to put one on the first one, one on the last one, and I'm going to work back and forth in between so that they're all nicely even. Fold it over. Okay. Going to have the next one, glue on both sides. Okay, so wherever the first one is, I can see it roughly goes about there, so I'm going to have it tucked close in. Up to the line, fold it over. Okay, so that they're offset. Go to the last one, because this was the last one. I'm going to work my way into the middle. Okay, line it up. Have it so that the circle just about maybe covers it. Because when I put the dates on, you want to see January, February, March. You want to see the months that are there. Okay, so now I'm working my way into the middle. So as I go, maybe I should have moved that one over a little bit more. Let's see. So I got space for 2 more. So as I go through, I might have to tuck this one a little closer to the other month. Put it in. Figure out where it's going to be. So thereabouts, I'm just going to tuck it right behind that month circle and fold it over. I got 1 more to do. Slip that in. These two don't seem to like each other. And it looks like they will fit nicely there. So you're going to do that for the other 6 again. So now that they are kind of offset a little bit, you're going to do that for the other 6 as well. So now I have them all done for all 12 sheets. Okay. And what I can do now is I put the first 6, so if I want to put them in the box, and the second 6 in the box. Now, the next thing to do is to put the little circles of the dates in here. You should have January to December. They should be in there somewhere. And you just add them on with some glue so that it turns out like this. Inside your package is also a little sheet of paper with the dates, January to December, and another sheet on the back with the the first sheet has January 1st to the 15th, so the month 1st to the 15th, and then the other sheet has the 16th to the rest of the date. What you're going to do is you're going to cut close to the date part here, leave about 1 inch on the bottom, a little space on each side, on the left and right, and what happens is that will then tuck in, goes in the front, January, tucks in the front, so you can write the names down. And the back goes in the back part. And you tuck it in, and you could write the names down. And that will hide in here. So that is completely done. Now, the next portion of the video, just take a look. I'm going to show you, we are going to use some of the DSP to make cards that will slip inside. So I'm going to show you how to make some cards, and then we're just going to slip them in. You should have enough DSP and cardstock and some of the leftovers that we're going to be doing. So I'm going to show you that in another video. So keep an eye out. So that is now complete. What do you think? All right, ladies, now let us make some cards to go into our beautiful birthday card calendar box. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to round up all my little bits and pieces because that's what we're going to be using. So I went through all of my box and I took out all of the bits and pieces and scraps from the DSP that we had used for the box. So I had some extras, so I just pulled them all out. So I'm going to have them all put together, and I'm going to show you how we're going to make some cards out of these. Okay, so I had taken some time, and I just kind of divided up my pile of paper into little more manageable pieces. So I put little strips together, little squares and rectangles together, longer pieces, so that when I'm putting them all together, I'll have them at hand. In the meantime, so I've done that, I've divided them up. I'm going to take some of my Pear Pizzazz pieces of cardstock, and I'm going to cut some card bases for that. And what I'm going to do is I will just put them in and cut them. I'm going to score them first and then cut them. And I'm going to put a couple of them aside. So I'm going to make about 4 So that's 2 pieces of cardstock in from each piece. So I get 2 card bases from each cardstock. So right now I only have 4, so I'm going to work with that. I'm going to start with that. And let's take a look at some of the pieces that we have. So if I have some of the longer pieces that I have, okay, I'm going to see what I can put together. So if I have some like that. Oh, and I wanted to show you one of the items that is a really good purchase to go along with this set, if you want to buy that, are some of these little gold inserts. And I'm just going to use them around for the background where the sentiments go. And they are really easy to help jazz up your paper. If you are interested in getting some of this gold laser cut specialty paper, if you have an annual catalog, you can find it on page 152. And you get all of these beautiful little punch outs that you can get, and little 4x6 mats. They are very beautiful. You just punch them out and lay them on the card, and this helps put together a card very, very quickly. You get a couple of sheets of that, and they're very useful. So I just wanted to point that out, and I'm going to be using those to jazz up my cards. Just to let you know, some of the other items that I'm going to be using is the ribbons. This one is just jade. I'm going to be using some of the ribbon that I used in the card calendar, and this is gray granite. I'm going to be using some ink pads. I've got black, mossy meadow, garden green, tranquil tide, and pretty peacock. Now those are the colors that are found inside the DSP that we are going to be using, so it'll match very nicely when I make some sentiments. I am also going to be using a punch for my sentiments. Punch that out a little bit. I'll also use a white ribbon, some white cardstock, and like I said, the gold foil around it. So those are just some of the items I'm going to be using to make the cards that we are going to fill in our box. I've decided I'm going to use some of the little squares here that I have left over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them down into the size. I want them to kind of go across. I'm going to make like a 4 square, but I need to make sure that they are all the same size. So I know this is going to be 4 across, so I'm going to cut these all down to the size of 2 inches each. So I'm going to get my paper cutter, and I'm going to cut them down to the size of 2 inches each. Okay, put them all together. And I got more left over. I'll put them in my little scrap piles to use for something else. And what I'm going to do, I got my pieces, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them down because I want them all to fit onto the paper. And I'm going to cut them to 2.5. So they are already at 2 inches. So I'm going to cut them down to 2.5. And I'm going to lay them out. One. There we go. And I'm going to kind of arrange them like so. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to glue them down. Okay. When I glue them down, I want to have a little bit of space around the edge. There we go. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. Whatever you think looks good. I'm gonna put that up a little bit. Now maybe what I'm going to do is just kind of move it over a little. I think I want them all touching in the center. So I'm just going to reposition those. And I'm going to put them a little closer. Like so. Okay. That's going to overlap a little bit. Now, working with scraps is pretty easy because you really can't go too wrong with them. That one seems to be cut a little bit too small. So I'll just fiddle with it. And the idea what I'm going to do on top of this, so now I got all 4 down. And that piece I had, that gold piece, is going to sit on top. And all I want to do is hide that, the center. I'm going to just put it in the center. There we go. And I'm going to get some white, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on that. I'm going to use one of my favorite colors, Pretty Peacock, to do my sentiment on. And I'm just going to grab something close by for my sentiment that I can put in. My favorite stamp sets is the Forever Fern. So I'm going to be using Pretty Peacock for the sentiment. And one of my favorite stamp sets is the Forever Fern. I'm going to use one of the sentiments from that. And I'm going to place it on the block. There we go. And I'm going to punch that out with a 2-inch punch, which is somewhere here. And there we go. That is going to fit in right inside that little circle very nicely. And I am done. And that's all I'm going to do for that card. If you want, you could always add a little bow. And then I'm going to pop it inside we're going to start in January, and that's going to go in there. So that's for one of the cards. The next one I'm going to make is going to be using some of the other DSP. So I'm just going to use one of the card strips here. And what I've decided to do is I'm going to have a little bit of strips on each side. So I'm going to grab, look for one that has like a nice pattern on it. So I'm just going to go through, and I'm just going to decide to use this one here. It's got a really nice pattern. And I'm going to cut it from the top, which is a 5.5. I'm going to do that for both pieces. Cut it at 5.5. So it's going to go from the top to the bottom. And 5.5. So I'm going to use both pieces here. And I'm going to, I guess I could cut that in half and save some of that paper. Because really what I'm going to do is just use it as a frame, so on each side. Going to have it like that, and I'm just going to turn it over, and I'm going to just tape it down a little bit. Just one to hold it in place. And I'm going to have a little bit peeking out. And do that for the other side. Also, a little bit of tape just to hold it. And then I can manipulate it and fold it back. And I'm going to add the adhesive underneath. Just makes it easier. The tape just makes it easier to hold. I'm going to glue this down onto the top there. So it's got a little bit on each side. Now, even though it's a little bit long, I'm just going to take my snips and just trim it up so it doesn't hang off. And again, I'm going to use some of the gold. Maybe I'm going to get some of the pieces out here. And it's just easy enough to pop out. So if I wanted to, just going to use a couple, so just pop it out. Maybe I'll put that around. If not, lay some of these out. Maybe I want it like that. Oh, I think I like that better. It's kind of tough, huh? They're just so pretty. Now I wonder what would happen. I'm just going to get my 2-inch punch and see what it's going to look like if I pop in a 2-inch punch under that. Maybe that's what I'll do, is I'm just going to use that. I'm going to use some ribbon. So again, use my favorite color, Pretty Peacock. There's no Pretty Peacock ink in here, so maybe I'll move on to another one that matches. I think I'm going to go with Garden Green because I want to pull some of this color up from there. There we go. Let that dry a little bit, and in the meantime, I'm going to get a little bit of ribbon. Now my place is becoming overrun, so let's take a look for the ribbon. I'm decided I'm going to go with the Just Jade, and I'm going to pull a little piece of ribbon off, and I'm going to just make it like hanging off on the back a little bit. Nothing too fancy, just off like that. Trim the ends so it looks like just like that. And I'm going to get some glue dots and put them on the back of this little wreath. I'm going to roll them up so that they kind of hide underneath. Okay. Just going to couple around and just kind of roll it up. And I'm going to lay that down. Okay. And I will have my dimensionals, because I want the sentiment to pop up with the ribbon on top of the gold. So have that up. And I'm just going to put that right in the middle. There we go. And it looks like I just need one more little dot. I don't want that kind of moving around too much on me. So I'm just going to put it right there. Make sure it's all tucked in. And there we go. And there's the card for March. So I'm going to drop that one in there. And let's go on to another one. Okay, let's continue on with our third card. I'm going to grab one of the pieces that is a long strip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure it over here. I'm going to put it on the side where the fold is. So it's going to be off to the side a little bit like this. And it's going to go from the top to the bottom. And I'm just going to glue that down. It will overhang a little bit, but that's okay because I'm going to cut that off, turn it over, and just snip that right off. Now all these little pieces that I've got left over, I will use on other cards. Now I have a nice square here, and I'm going to mat that with white. I'm going to mat that with white on here. And then I just, so that'll go on here like this. So quickly just mat that up. Okay. And I'm going to adhere that roughly about that spot in the middle up top. The papers work so well together that you really can't go wrong with any of these patterns. one more sentiment. I need to have a sentiment on here, so let's continue with the same sentiment. And let's go with Tranquil Tide. And if I don't like that color, two pieces. A piece of paper has always two sides, so let's see how that looks. Oh, nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the punches. It's a different shape, so let's see. I'm going to put that in there. Punch that out. And I'm going to put that thereabouts, right about there. And I'm going to add a bow. So I'm going to make a bow. And then I will just use adhesive dot. That bow was a little bit too big. So the little rabbit ears were too big. So put that again. Make my bow. Guess the bow doesn't want to work with me today, but it's okay. Keep going at it. There we go. Tuck it in. Where'd you go? There we go. And there is the bow. Okay. Gonna add that on with dimensionals. Okay, 1, 2. Don't want it to go away. These are really simple. You could do this with any DSP. Just replace it with anything. Could be Christmas, whatever. Same designs. And off you go. Put on the bow. And there we go. There. Now my bow's a little long, so I'll just tuck that up. There we go. And that goes in for one of the months. So there we go. Very nice. Okay. I'm just going to keep on going with the little pieces. So I'll just keep repeating this until I use them all up. Maybe I'll put one like this, put it sideways, put this gold punch out, and I just keep adding to the calendar.